Hello, and welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Manika.
And I'm Andrea. And welcome to episode 6 of season 3. It's called Scavengers. And guys, this episode takes place about 3 weeks after the last episode. And we see that Discovery has had a lot of improvements, a lot of updates, a lot of, oh my gosh, yay, finally, you're learning something about the past and the future, which is your future, but it doesn't really make sense, but it's all working together. And it's happening. The Discovery crew is feeling more and more like the actual part, like they're actually a part of Starfleet. So before we go this deep dive into this whole episode, because there's a lot to talk about in this episode, and I don't know if it's all good or bad, Monica, what were your initial reactions?
So you know I like away missions. So I like this one. I'm just upset at the writers for writing Michael's character this way. Because I'm like, throughout this, I'm like, Michael, really? Really? Are you doing this right now? So at your back? You're doing this? Like, really? So I'm frustrated, but it's I think everyone acted out well. I like the effects, I like the action. I just wish that her character was better developed. What about you?
I thought this episode was both, like, I'll give it like B minus, because like you said, Michael has some issues in this episode where it was and I think I pointed it out from past episodes that Michael is not 100% Starfleet anymore. And so it's a lot of that came out. We have a lot of the old Michael who makes rash decisions and believes her way is the only way, or believes because she thinks it's important, everyone should think it's important. And it's very annoying and it's very tired and it's very like drawn out. But I loved seeing everyone else in Discovery being so excited to get their new toys, to see how they were integrating, to learn that they're finally like sort of acclimating to the present, and learning that, like, and trying to find their foothold within Starfleet now, knowing that they're the one ship that can just jump anywhere. So it was nice to see that they're finally sort of finding their way into this new future. But it's also just sort of annoying that we're, like you said, like the writers are sort of giving us the same type of Michael who, like, at this point, it's like she never learns. It's like, I get that the ends justify the means, so to speak, but it's also just stop blatantly disregarding orders because you think they don't apply to you because you know better. And it's like, I don't know, maybe I feel like a broken record. It's like every time she does this, it does not end well for her. So why do you keep doing this? Let's go ahead and just sort of jump in this episode because I feel like I could just keep talking about everything, and this is supposed to just be my initial reaction. So deep dive. So the first part about this episode, or I guess the main part of this episode that I really love before we get into the whole Michael situation, because that could be like a long-winded talk for us. Yeah. Discovery is getting updated. We are seeing that they're now being integrated with the programmable matter, and that, like, the ship, we see parts of the ship we're able to like disengage from each other, but then come back, like, and reconnect. That they all have the new little badges that sort of act as everything in one. So, and they can even pull stuff out and like have a 3D model.
Right. That's custom to them. Yeah.
It's very it was I loved it. I love this. And what did you think about like Discovery, so just now finally integrating to the future?
I'm so glad to see that also, because I think that'll help them in their defenses in the future, because they have this dilithium that everyone else in the universe wants. So they need to have better technology and like defense mechanisms to protect that. It's all customized for each person. Oh, and I like how the Federation like ease their training into it. So they still have like the pilots still have the same dashboard, Joanne and Detmer, but their controls are customized to them.
And did you notice a Detmer was like, did we really need this? And then one of the other guys, I can't think of his name, was like, heck yes, we did.
Yeah, Bryce.
He was like, heck yes. Almost like, she doesn't speak for the rest of us. We like this.
But there's always one person that's like, oh, new technology. Like, what?
I don't know.
Right.
And she's like, he's like, yes, we did. We needed it. We don't listen to her. We needed this. It was also fun to see like he kept jumping throughout different scenes, like
Linus.
Oh, this isn't Linus, yes. He's like, oh, this isn't the mess hall. Oh, this isn't the science lab. Oh, this isn't. And I love that he was like, because it's a learning curve for all of them. So he's like, your personal transporter. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going. And he just sort of pops up in the wrong spot. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to be here. Bye. And like he leaves without even like explaining anything else other than I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't where I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Once or twice is one thing, but I think by like the third or fourth, he got a little annoying for me. It's like, dude, work this out in the hologram room or something, but a training pad. And I felt like he was there at these like kind of like these awkward moments to help with some comic relief and some.
That's definitely what they used him for. So when you said that they had all this dilithium, because yes, they definitely Saru made a point of saying their scars were healed and they're becoming more whole again. I wonder, did Starfleet take all the dilithium, or take some of the dilithium off of the ship? If they're in a shortage, this would be a nice help build up their reserves again, because right now it doesn't seem like Vance is letting Discovery go anywhere at the moment, just because one, still trying to figure out where they fit. Two, they are like they were in the past, but now in the future, they are Starfleet's secret weapon when it means to get somewhere pretty quickly. So it's like, do you really need the dilithium if they're never gonna let you go past this area? So let's give it to ships who may need it.
Yeah. I think that's a good point to also diversify your one core source of all this resource, right? So we don't put all of our money into like one stock. We try to like diversify. I think it would be good for them to diversify. They didn't mention it, not that I remember. I don't remember that, but I think that would have been good.
Yeah,
thing to do. I noticed that Saru was still in the Starfleet uniform from 930 years ago, even though they're part of Federation, and he was part of, thank goodness, like the cabinet or the leadership. He just seemed like a different addition. So I'm hoping they'll officially join and become like part of the ranks and change their uniform as well. Otherwise, it seems like they're not really connected, even though their equipment's been updated.
So to me, it was like almost like how Pike, when his people had the different uniforms, but like Saru's didn't. So it's like, part of me feels like, is Starfleet that underfunded? Because they're so much smaller now that like, do they have enough uniforms to go around for the entire ship? Or like, are they again still, are you like, no, we think of you as family, we just don't have enough uniforms for your entire crew yet, so we're gonna wait till we have all of them? Or is it like, you're not really a part of our family yet, so we want you to stand out just so we all know that you're a little bit different? Because like they did give them the new badges, so they are like sort of blending in, but you're right, like they don't have the uniform. So what was the reasoning behind it? Was it because you're not fully a part of our Starfleet, or we don't view you that way, or we're severely lacking and we just don't have enough uniforms for your entire crew at once? Like, what is it?
I don't know. It seems like with the programmable matter and whatever they use to print out it seems like they should be able to do that if they retrofitted like the ship and they changed even a spore drive. You would think that they could, I don't know, create 300 new uniforms, but
with Starfleet, but you never know.
Yes.
We also get to see that there is, between the other captains, we can see that Saru is like itching to like sort of jump into the fight, because there are things that are going on. It's like, oh, can they wait a week? Because we'll make it there. And how a lot of these missions will take time. And Saru is like, well, sir, we can jump in. And Vance, I like that Vance didn't use them, because one, he's like, we cannot be too reliant. I feel like it's smart. Like, you cannot be too reliant on them to be able to be everywhere at once, because then you're making other ships feel obsolete. I know you want to prove yourself, but let us handle things the way you've been handling them, because one, all of Starfleet is aware of the way we currently do things. And two, we need to keep you as a secret because we don't know when we might need you, and we don't want to make you a bigger target than what you already are, what you could possibly be, because everyone is going to realize, oh, you can jump from for anywhere in the galaxy at once. That is a highly like, people are not going to want to kill, like, people are not going to want to destroy the ship. They're going to want to take the ship over and like use it for themselves. So it's like, we need to protect you at all costs. And I think that is a important task. I think it's good that Vance is keeping that behind the scenes right now. And so they're way more acclimated to the future and understanding the new policies of Starfleet.
Right. And he hinted towards a third major thing, in that a war might possibly break out. Something really important might break out in the next few hours. So it'd be nice if everyone could I'll say that again. Everyone can just hold tight just in case you need it for a bigger mission.
Yes. Everyone needs to stay there because, and they was like, it may happen in 12 hours, at any time within 12 hours. And so we need you to be able to jump there immediately if it comes up that we need to assist. I'm loving to see that Vance is a very competent leader. And I love that Vance is not an emotional leader. I love that he is a straightforward, by the book, like, personal feelings aside, this is about Starfleet and what's best for Starfleet, not about what's best for you or making you feel like his goal is not to make Saru feel like I'm number one. His goal is to make, like, Saru, you're part of the team. When I need you, I'll call you up. Otherwise, sit still. And that's what makes Saru sort of a good captain, because he understands it's not personal, it's professional.
Right. Another thing that I noticed from Vance is that some of the missions he discussed with that senior, with the leaders, was a mission to help deliver food and supplies, like a humanitarian mission. And I thought that was right on point, because that's what the United Earth president wasn't doing, and that's why there was that tension between Wynn and her. That's why they were after they just needed they needed food. And so they were doing whatever they could, piracy, to get food, it could get rations. And I thought that it was just, I don't know, the best thing to do is that when you're part of a collaborative, to do that. And it just shows the differences between those two leadership groups.
Do you want to talk about Stamets, Paul, and him and his connection that he has with Indira is still talking to her boyfriend. And she comes up, when she's trying to explain to Paul, she's like saying, hey, you're gonna think I'm crazy. And Paul's like, try me. And it's very interesting because, like, Paul's been through a lot. So he's like, try me. Yeah. Let's see who's crazy in this scenario. Because Indira upgrades the spore drive, so Paul doesn't have to be injected every single time to use it. He can just use his fingers, and it's much more quick, easy, and efficient. And Paul is really grateful for that. Like, he doesn't have to be stuck every single time. Two, that she's able to remove the places he was being injected in. She's able to remove those. And to me, that's almost making him feel a little bit more human, like how he used to be. And it was a sweet little scene between them when she's like, my boyfriend's here. And he's like, my husband died, came back. I view life and death differently. So it's he's almost it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet him. And how she's relaying a conversation. Oh, he likes you. And Paul is literally is not judging her, does not think she's crazy. He only has one question. He's like, I just thought it was just the memories. And she explains, no, she can see him and talk to him, and he has his own thoughts. And Paul doesn't judge her. And when he's talking to Hugh later, I thought it was just a beautiful scene, because he's like, I never thought I would meet someone who's sort of going through what I did. And it's not even just the loss of a spouse, or someone you love, but it's the fact that you can still see them after their death. And he's like, it's nice to have a little connection. And he's almost be a little mentor with her, because granted, yeah, he's definitely a lot more older than she is. So a friendship, a mentorship between them. So I really thought that scene was really cute. Every scene between them was really cute.
I agree with you. From the very beginning, when Paul entered into engineering and they were sitting on the floor, seeing to be, she was working out. We're not exactly sure what she was doing.
No idea.
But she was putting something together or taking it apart. She was researching. And he was puzzled, like, where's this? Where's that? He was concerned about the change. And she helped turn that conversation into like, but here's how it can help you. Here's how all of these changes will help make you comfortable. And so I felt like she was helping to turn that whole, I think she helped him adjust to the new technology. And then in turn, he also helped her also realize that this is okay. Talking it out. He doesn't know exactly what's going on, I think, but he's just trusting her, and he knows that she's young and she's working through this. And as you said, he's not passing judgment on that. And I think that that's just so sweet. So it's a different side of Paul than what we saw in the first season. Completely different season.
He's in like he's in Big Brother mode.
Where he was so firm and had to have this or that. So yeah. And it was nice to see Paul and Hugh together in like an intimate moment, but in the day, sharing their day.
How comfortable they are with each other.
Yes.
And I like that this scene, because I know I've given Hugh and Paul like a lot of crap this season because it seemed like out of nowhere it went from, I'm like, you didn't have this conversation, but now they are my couple again, and I'm happy. Yes. So the second half of this episode is all about Michael and her dumb decisions. Tell me how I really feel. She continuously makes things about herself that don't need to be about herself, and it looks poorly on all Discovery. So let's go ahead and just sort of jump into what Michael is doing in this part of the episode. And I want to preface this by saying, I still love her. I just hate how the writers keep doing this to her. Just stop writing her as like a loner friend. Stop writing her as a loner friend, please. Just stop. Okay, so on part of this episode, Discovery receives a hail from a ship outside of the Starfleet's like hidden little warp zone, wherever it's called. And it's Book's ship. And we see Book's cat. And Tilly's like, Grudge? And so there's a couple things in that whole scenario, but we'll get to it in a moment once I just describe the whole scenario. And we found out that Book he found another black box from one of the ships from the burn. And we find that Michael is still tracking what's going on with the burn, because in her mind, Starfleet can't heal unless they know what happened. And in my mind, that's what's happening in your mind, Michael. Starfleet can't heal unless you know what happened, because you're a science officer and you feel like you need to know the answer to everything. And Starfleet itself is saying, look, this is not our priority right now. We're trying to just keep fires out as they're coming. We don't have time to answer this one long answer. And Michael's almost making it seem like they're doing a disservice by not doing it, when it's like, sometimes people are just not, it's not as important. It is important, but it's not their only mission right now. And Michael and Georgiou go off to find Book and save him. It's a whole nother colony. And in doing so, she puts like Starfleet in jeopardy, or like they're staying Discovery in jeopardy with Starfleet. And while yes, everything sort of ends good and happy-go-lucky, and we'll say what Vance says to her at the very end for like later part of the second half of this episode. But this Michael's story was very selfish. Like, she was doing a good thing, but she was doing it very selfishly. So let's get into the Michael of the episode. What did you think about her scenes, about her part in this episode?
First of all, I would like to say that it's very clear that she's in love.
Yes.
And sometimes when you're in love, you do things that you would not normally do. And she doesn't know how to constrain her emotions, even though for the last few years, not just 930 years for the for this time leap, but for most of her Starfleet career, she should understand how to control these emotions and think through things, talk it out with the team, and let's work this out. And she hasn't learned since the first time that
we met her. Since the Battle of the Binary Stars, which I will still go on the record is not her fault that the war started, but if she just didn't do what she did, the war would have still started. She just wouldn't have been blamed for it.
Right. But it's not the first time that she's completely disobeyed a captain. That's all. And whether you like it or not, Michael, you need to follow your captain. I don't understand why she doesn't get this. It should have been like rule number 1 in Starfleet Academy. And I would think also just in Vulcan society that they would understand leadership and hierarchy ranks. So this is puzzling to me. I understand that like she's finds this need to like help save, in this case, save one person over potential war that could break out that impacts a lot more other people, and really undermining Saru that had her back for a lot of these mistakes along the way that and issues that Michael's had, and Saru has told her time and time again, like, I need to trust you. And each time she has undercut that to the point where this was like the deepest cut, and there's really no turning back, I feel like, with Saru for this. I partially blame, though, Georgiou for Georgiou.
No, it's not Georgiou's fault.
No, but I think Georgiou made it seem as though this was Terry and Georgiou made it seem as though, okay, I think Michael would have left with or without Georgiou, without Terry and Georgiou. He
definitely would have.
But Terry and Georgiou, I feel like, is an accomplice in this.
Nope.
And Terry and Georgiou did warn Michael, though, that Saru's trying to prove himself. But she said, "Yeah, I'm in it. I'm game. I'm in for this mission," which I think she could have perhaps talked some sense into Michael. So
I have to disagree. I'm sorry. This is no one's fault but Michael's. Like Georgiou has never considered herself a part of Discovery. Like she's never really considered herself part of Discovery. She considers herself her own person. And like we didn't even see her in uniform. Yeah. Michael was going to go with or without her regardless. The only thing Georgiou did was made sure she did it in a smart manner. Like, but Michael was this is all Michael's fault. Like, because even when she was there, she did dumb decisions, and Georgiou was just like, why? Like, you know why we're doing this, right? And you know who you're going to hurt. Like, for the fact that Georgiou is almost a voice of reason in this episode, that should be red flags for you, Michael. If Georgiou is telling you, like you said, if Georgiou is telling you Saru's going to take a ding on this, all of Discovery is going to take a ding on this because you're actively disobeying his orders. She's basically defending the Kelpian. Right. She eats them. And she's basically saying, you're going to go against his order? Do you know what you're doing? Like, Michael, no. You slap on the hand. Bad girl. No. Like, don't do this. Because even when she was talking to Saru, I think I said this in the last episode, she came back to Star. She's not 100% Starfleet right now. She's not, because she may be physically there, but mentally she's not. She's used to being a courier for the last year without having to being her own boss. When Saru was telling her we need to be ready because a war could break out within 12 hours, she's like, oh, I'll be back before then. And he's like, you're not understanding me. And she understood him. She just heard what she wanted to hear, which was, you have a 12-hour limit. And she's like, oh, I'll be there and back before. And he's like, you're not going. We need, like, this is where the writers, I feel like mess up with her, because her goal is always to be Starfleet first, but you're going, like, you want to be like, all last episode, you were gung-ho about proving what Discovery can do and how they're an asset. And this is your chance to do that, to make sure to follow the order, to make sure you're there. And you go to save someone who's not within Starfleet. And I understand that he's very important to you, but you realize your actions are illegal. Like, you are disobeying a direct order. This isn't like I didn't listen to you or you didn't listen to me. This is this is insubordination. This is illegal within Starfleet. Like, what are you doing? Did you learn nothing from the last time you did this?
Right. It's actually every season there's an insubordination, because like she was also in trouble with Starfleet when she kidnapped Spock and they were on the run, right? So
I feel like these writers never let her truly grow. Like, they make her learn lessons, but they never let her grow to like where she won't make the same mistakes again. And even though you're putting it in a different package and you're wrapping it up differently, it's the same mistakes you're having her make every single season, almost like clockwork.
Right.
So,
well, and
why?
But I don't understand why Michael thought that just the two of them would be able to save the day, and like, why it would be on her best interest to bring a whole federation, like this is a massive undertaking. Okay, yes, they were able to defeat it, but this could have been really bad. And this has been going on for a long time.
And the only reason it didn't go bad was because Georgiou knew how to act the act. But
there could have been a lot more booby traps. There was an invisible fence around. There's a lot of weapons. Yeah, a lot of weapons there. So it would have been best to bring in a force there to help take that all down, not just the two of you in this one ship to try to maneuver this. That was very risky. And I'm just disappointed that she doesn't think these things through.
Or think that just because she's trying to do it for a right reason, she's not going to face repercussions. Because like we said in the last episode, you're no longer the ambassador's daughter here. Right. You're not. You're just someone who has to prove themselves. You're a grunt. You're new. Everyone else, even the people who have less seniority than you, every single person within Starfleet, regardless of their rank outside of Discovery, has more pull than you do, Michael.
Right.
You need to sit down.
Right. And then why is this one individual, Book, who we know is she's in love with, but why is Book in this black box more important than Michael's potential role in helping to save the Federation and a potential war? She's just turned a blind eye to everything else, and she's off to save her man. And it's a flop, because I feel like she was she was just such a strong character before, and I don't like to see female characters that are kind of brought down for another male character help uplift a male character, and I'm concerned about this. It's that she's his savior. I don't want that.
Like, it's nice that the woman is not the one who needs the saving, but I don't want her to have to save the man at the expense of her career. Because it's never at the expense of a career for a guy, but it's always at the expense of the career for the girl. And I don't like that. So then we find out that Saru finds out, I think from Tilly, that Michael's missing. And Tilly's like, oh, I'm sure she had a good reason. And Saru's like, I know the reason. She disobeyed a direct order, basically. And Tilly's like, oh, what? And then so Tilly surprised me, because she's like, well, then you need to tell the Admiral. And that's when I was like, okay, Tilly, I have mad respect for you, because Tilly understood in that moment, it's not about the fact that we're friends, Michael. It's about the fact that your actions are going to reflect poorly on all of Discovery because you can't listen. And Tilly was like, Saru, you need to tell the Admiral before he finds out from anyone else. Like, because if he does, it's going to look like you were trying to keep something from him. And it's going to look bad for all of us. And Tilly understood it's not about you, Michael. Like, we may have came to the future for you, with you, but you can't ruin our chances of being respected here because you can't follow orders. And I think, unlike with the Battle of the Binary Stars and everything else, her actions, like now it's I feel like she'll face more repercussions with her actions now. If her Discovery crew turns their back on her. Not to say that Tilly will, but like for Discovery to understand, Michael, your actions now, this could have horrible repercussions for everyone. We have nothing else but this.
Right.
You cannot risk this for us.
Right.
And I don't think Michael's going to basically really understand until she comes to terms with it does not matter what you want. What matters is what you're ordered to do. And in this sense, you risked all of Discovery. And then like Tilly tries to lie, like I would have done the same thing. And Saru's like, no, you wouldn't have. Don't lie.
Yeah. That was Tilly trying to be like the nice, kind, like friend. Mm-hmm. But I think I agree with her initial judgment. At first, I was a little puzzled by why Michael and Tilly were still roommates when they like showed that Grunge was in their shared quarters, because like Arium had a separate room, a few other people had their own quarters. So I was a little puzzled by that. And then I remember like Michael and Tilly were like the odd couple, and Michael was helping to mentor Tilly so that she could move up in ranks and in Starfleet. But now I feel like Tilly is more grown up and able to make better decisions than Michael. And they should say, and now that Michael's no longer like, well, we now know like Michael has been demoted, but they should stay as roommates, because Michael needs to like absorb some of what Tilly has learned. And I think Tilly's could be a good sounding board for Michael to talk these things through.
Definitely. I agree. I definitely agree. So when Michael gets back from saving everyone, and she does save the slaves and all that stuff. She does save them. She saves Book, gets the black box. She comes back and Vance basically has her rip herself a new one and explaining that one, he may have authorized the trip. Like I think Vance would have authorized the trip if they had came to him, maybe not in that moment, right, but he definitely would have been, okay, we're going to go and save him. But first things first, we need to handle this. Right. And then two, basically brought her down saying like, you cannot put yourself sort of above others, that the burn is not something that Starfleet can really work on. I liked how Vance sort of took her down, had her take herself down a peg, because I think Michael only really listens to Michael, truly. And so for her to have to like break down, because she wasn't saying like a petulant child who was like, I'm in trouble because I went outside when you told me not to. Like you could tell she actually felt upset that she was being reprimanded. Because he had to say, yes, you saved the world and you're from the past and all that stuff. That doesn't mean anything to us. And I think that's an eye opener for her too. Like, we don't care. Right. We don't care. Like, you're not important. You can be replaced. Basically, the only person on Discovery who can be replaced is Paul. So like everyone else, like I think this is an eye opener for her, because it's like, you're not important to Discovery. You think you are, we can still separate you. And so I like that, at least that's the feeling I got when he was having her like reprimand herself. It was like, and the only reason you're not in jail is because you saved lives. And if you didn't save lives, it's like interesting to know, like if you didn't save lives, I would have been putting you in the brig, because what you did was illegal. This isn't like, this isn't me saying, I don't think you should go and you still went. This is, you were ordered not to by your captain and you still went against his rules. And then we see that like he leaves it up to Saru. And I think that was a real test for Saru with Vance. It's like, I'm leaving your punishment up to him. And Saru was like, he admitted to Tilly earlier that he's never felt this level of distrust since the Shinjo, and he demotes her from his number one to just the chief science officer. And I find it interesting that he did that, because I don't think she should have ever been his number one just yet in the first place, because even the last episode is sort of showed, and the episode before that, it sort of showed that she still thinks of herself as like a lone wolf type person. Like, we're friends, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna rely on myself. And the number one needs to be the person that the captain can truly rely on. And she wouldn't have been there if the captain had needed her, because she went on her own thing. So it was like nice that she got demoted. And I'm happy that she was like, Saru, you're doing the right thing. Because she deserves it. She deserves to be demoted. She honestly deserves to be less than this chief science officer, in my opinion, because that person still has sort of sway. And I think she needs to be kicked down to ensign again. Because I think when she joined Starfleet, she never joined as a grunt, I don't think.
Right. No, when Saris brought her on board, she was not at the level that Tilly was when Tilly first started out.
I think she should have been demoted further, because that was a one. It would be like a warning to everyone: we're friends, we're family, but you don't get to do whatever you want to do. Like, that part of Starfleet is over. We don't have friends anymore that we can pull strings. Like, oh, well, I understand your character. She's never going to do that again. Or I understand why you did that. This Starfleet is strapped with resources. They're strapped with people. They're strapped all around. They cannot risk having someone on their staff who won't listen. They can't. It's not possible. So I do like that she was reprimanded and demoted. I do hope she proves herself later and like comes back, but she needed this. Her personality needed this.
I agree. And I wonder if this was in their regular like timeline, if this would have happened, if she felt as though with her year, I don't know, being a courier, if she felt more independent and able to take more risks, if she would have done this before. It seemed like I don't know, who knows with Michael and how they would write this character. I felt like the writers just took this in the writers just didn't have to go there with this. And yeah, there was something else. Oh, Georgiou. Yes. Georgiou had like an outer body experience during one of their fights and at another time. So although like I have a love-hate relationship with Georgiou, I'm a little worried. She adds another dynamic to that ship.
Yeah, she definitely adds a ruthlessness that sometimes I think Discovery needs. Not all the time, definitely not all the time, but she adds a sense of, are we going to do this or not? And in every organization, there's always that person you need someone who can get their hands dirty, because everything can't be cemented in peace. You can't trust everyone. Like, you need someone who is able to go undercover so well like she does. You need someone who can be so sneaky when it comes to missions, because Starfleet, like Tilly stands out like a sore thumb. Like, just stands out like a sore thumb when she tries to go undercover. You need someone who can easily like meld into any type of situation. And Georgiou brings that. She brings them to a different level of thinking. Like, they always think so honorable. And Georgiou's like, they don't care. No, that's not how we do things. That's not how they do things. So if you want to win, if you want to save those people, this is how you're gonna have to save those people, because you can't save everyone with peace. We learned that when Discovery first arrived, and those people were going to kill everyone. And it took Georgiou defeating them all with action. Mm-hmm. You don't need a lot of her. You don't need more than one of her. But like, everyone needs one of her on their ship, someone who can do the work that needs to be done to keep peace. So I hope she's okay. I hope whatever happens it makes me think that the guy from the last episode who she did her interview with, I wondered, like, is he making her sick, or if what he was talking about when it came to the Terran species, is that true? So
all I know is that Michael would not have survived that mission if it wasn't for Georgiou.
Yeah, no, she would not have at all. Whatever. But that, because you need someone like Georgiou who can blend. We don't know though if this the future Starfleet has a Section 31. If they do, I think this Georgiou would thrive in that scenario. I hope she goes back to section. Like, I do like her as a regular and a main character. But I know that actress is also booked and busy. So like, I hope that if they like do sort of like use this as like a way of writing her off for a bit, that like she goes to section 31 because they have like a cure or something, and then she stays there. Or whatever counts for their section 31 in the future.
I missed Jet. She was missing, even though there were a few scenes in engineering. She wasn't there. And that's a little disappointing that these characters just come and go sometimes.
Especially for someone who's supposed to seem like almost like a main character. Like they're not like a side character who just has like a big. We see Linus more than we see Jet, and I need to understand why.
Right, it's like either Linus or Jet. It's like what was hard to find to see both. Like,
that's yes. Okay, yes, that's true. Okay. My final thoughts is I hope Michael uses this as a learning experience, and I hope the writers actually have her learn from these mistakes and stop having her make the same mistake in a different color. That is all I have to say. Anything to add?
There's one more thing that one more character we didn't really talk about and we mentioned, but the book. So his character is back, and there was a nice kiss between them, and let's see where this relationship goes.
I will have to say one thing though. Compared to her kiss with Ash, that was a little dry. Like, compared to her, like when I saw them kissing, I was like, I've seen better kisses on K-dramas. Like
they were the turbo lift, and
he paused it.
Like, beamed in.
He paused the turbo lift. He stopped it. And that is when you push someone up against the wall, lift them up, have them wrap their legs around you. Whenever in any romance movie, book, scene, show, whatever, and you're in the elevator with someone and they stop it so you can have a moment, you have more. She had a better goodbye kiss with Ash than I saw the kiss with Book. I mean, yes, I'm happy that they kissed because we can definitely see that there's something going to happen between them. But like, I was expecting her to be pushed up against the wall.
She's trying to take it slow and easy with Book, and she wasn't ready to love there. Get it? Like she was like
Book, I was expecting to see some tongue. I was expecting to see her being pushed up against the wall, and like, because you wanted that girl for a year. We all know you wanted that girl for a year, and that kiss was like, oh, we've been dating for 10 years. Makeout session. We haven't made out in such a long time.
I'm just glad it wasn't on the planet when yes. She said. I'm glad it was at another moment with reflection. I hate it when they're like their storylines and they're in the midst of an adventure and time is of the essence and they need to kiss and make out. Like, really? I thought time is so.
And then like time stands still and the camera zooms and zooms and zooms and zooms and zooms.
And now you have to save the day. Like, what happened to that? No? Okay.
All right, everyone. So we want to say thank you again for joining us today. I hope you had fun listening to this episode as we did recording it. But as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Anika.
And live long and prosper.